Hello and welcome to our documentary about the Three-Fifth Compromise. This documentary will be broken up into 4 different parts. Those 4 different parts are: let's start off with the first part. You might be wondering, what exactly is the Three-Fifth Compromise? Well, the Three-Fifth Compromise was a compromise reached among states' delegates during the 1787 United States Constitutional Convention. The population of slaves would be counted as 3/5 in total when apportioning representatives as well as presidential electors and taxes. The primary purpose of the Three-Fifth Compromise was to increase representation within the states by including slaves into the state's population. The Three-Fifth Compromise was proposed by James Wilson and Roger Sherman, who were both delegates for the Constitutional Convention of 1787.
The Three-Fifth Compromise actually impacted our world and had a great significance. The delegates to the Constitutional Convention finally agreed to the Three-Fifth Compromise that slaves should be counted as 3/5 of their real number. The Three-Fifth Compromise resolved the issue of counting slaves towards population in regards to representation in the House of Representatives. The Three-Fifth Compromise outlined a process for states to count slaves as part of the population in order to determine representation and taxation for the federal government. Southerners wanted slaves to count as full persons while Northerners opposed. The South wanted more power in Congress, and they thought a bigger population would help in achieving that.
The Three-Fifth Compromise actually had a lot of effects on our history. The Three-Fifth Compromise had a little effect on leading the Civil War. The Three-Fifth Compromise stated that a slave will count as 3/5 of a person in both taxation and representation. This problem because the North thought it was unfair for the slave owner to vote and have the right to vote for all of their slaves too. The Three-Fifth Compromise had another effect. The Three-Fifth Compromise established during the Constitutional Convention resulted in 3/5 of the number of slaves in a state being counted towards the state population. All of these effects were caused by the Three-Fifth Compromise.
Three-Fifth Compromise related to the theme of triumph and tragedy. Well, the Three-Fifth Compromise included both a triumph and tragedy. It was triumph because the Three-Fifth Compromise stated that a slave would count as a 3/5 of a person in terms of both taxation and representation. This was a problem because the North thought it was unfair for the slave owner to vote and have the right to vote for all their slaves too. The Three-Fifth Compromise stated that for every 5 black slaves, 3 of them counted towards the state population. Southerners wanted slaves to count as full persons while Northerners opposed. The South wanted more power in Congress, and they thought a bigger population would help them in achieving that. It was also a tragedy because the 3/5 had a part in leading the Civil War, and was one reason why the Civil War was called.
In conclusion, the 3/5 Compromise had both triumph and tragedy. The 3/5 Compromise was also a very important part of our history and had a very significant impact.